Yo, what is going on, YouTube? I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Today, we're bringing you a little, just more informational video, and it's just a tip for every god, or every guardian for when they're played in support. So even though Ardio, Yorm, Cthulhu, the three solo gods, I'm going to give you a little bit of tips just to help them in support also. So we're going to start off with Ares. Number one, Ares. Your biggest spike with Ares is your level 3 spike. Not your level 1, not your level 2, not your level 4, your level 3. When you have 2 points into your shackles, that's when your damage basically doubles with this ability. Your lockdown is unreal, and your 2v2 potential is through the roof. Another little thing just to throw in there is make sure you auto-attack cancel with it. Early game, just use one auto-attack, and then chain. So chain, auto-attack, chain. Towards like level 15, chain, auto-attack, chain. With the increased attack speed you can get a couple more auto-attacks off late game. Ardio, the biggest thing is to buy cooldown. This character is near useless if you don't buy cooldown, since she doesn't have that ultimate ability that most other gods have. Get cooldown on her and get it on her fast. 3, Athena. I know this is a really big one. People talk about it all the time with like good and bad Athenas. Know when to use your 2. You don't always have to dash 2. If they're playing up, you can just walk up into them. You don't always have to 3 before 2ing. Sometimes you want to get your 2 off as quick as possible, and if you just dash 3 and then 2, the Agni is just going to dash away. The Fenrir is going to jump away. Sometimes you just got to dash, taunt. So make sure you know when to use your 2. Sometimes you can 1 before, sometimes you can 3 before, but not all the time. Next up is Atlas. Atlas is... his 1 is area control. If you toss your 1 down when they're sieging, they will not want to walk into that area out of just fear of being 2'd by it. You don't have to 2 right away, but just toss your 1. Let your mage clear the wave. Hold your 2. If somebody walks into it, you can 2. If somebody doesn't walk into it, you just keep it there, and it's area denial. It also is for objectives too. It doesn't have to just be sieging and anti-sieging. Wow, that was a big voice crack. Doesn't have to be just sieging and anti-sieging. It can be on objectives also, but it's very, very effective for sieging and anti-siege. Next up is Bacchus. Be careful using your 2. It is your engage and your escape. So feel free to, if you're going to wipe a fight, feel free to use your 2 to get in. But if you go in with your 2, you do not have an escape anymore. Your escape is now just running around with your little waddle as Bacchus, your mitigations, your prots. Another one I had... because Bacchus doesn't really have a ton of tips with him because he's just so simple, is always make sure you're chugging in the late game. That'd be my second tip. Because you get protections, you get magical power, and then if your drunken meter is up, you get power, you get mitigation. There's a lot of stats in your passive. There's a lot of stats in your 1. Make sure you're just spamming it. Kabrakan, number whatever, next up. Your ultimate is only 75-second cooldown. If you're playing against some hunter and their escape is on their ultimate, they don't have a jump outside of that. You have 15 seconds after you ult to use your ult again if you get their ult out. So make sure you're abusing this cooldown. Most ults in the game are 90 seconds. Cabs is 75. Abuse that. It's area denial. Gives you a lot of free kills. A lot of the times it's against mages. Next up is Cerberus. If you have a problem hitting your 1, don't just use it off your 2. Use it off your ult. Your ult stacks your passive. So you have, or the passive of your 1. So you can ult, bring them where you want them to go, take like a half a step back, and then you can 1 just right in front of you. And it's a free stun every single time. Practice it a couple times. It's very easy. It makes it so you don't have to just 2 and then 1 and hope you hit it. Cthulhu, next up. The higher health you ult with this character, the more health you will be gaining. If you are 50% health, when you ult, you will become 50% health with that extra 25% maximum health buff. However, if you're 100% health, you basically just get 25% extra health. So more health that you have when you ult, the more health you will also have when you are
descending into madness.
Just a little thing, because I feel like not a ton of people know it. Some people like taking few abilities before even ulting on Cthulhu, but just make sure you ult as high health as you can. Fafnir. Your ult gives you immunity to everything. You are banished from the field of play for 3 seconds, or 2 seconds, I think it is. So you can use this to bait abilities. If Scylla hits you with her root, and she's going to try to ult off of it, just use your ultimate to immune you of everything else that's coming. If you jump in and you realize that you might get gone on, use your ult. Become immune to everything for a few seconds. Use this to bait abilities. Use this to waste time. Fafnir isn't just an objective god. He's very, very strong in team fights because he can CC a lot. He can waste a lot of time, and he's very safe. Next up with the Ganesh. My biggest thing with Ganesh is use your 2 not only to silence, but to interrupt abilities. If you can silence a Fenrir when he's 3ing, his ability is now on cooldown. It's not something that once your 1.8 second silence is gone, he can just use. You interrupted it, and now it is off cooldown, and he's got to wait the 14, whatever, 13, 12 seconds just for his ability to come back up. It is way more value to interrupt an ability than to silence so they can't use an ability. Geb's abilities DR themselves. If you 2 before ulting, your ult stun will not last this full duration. Therefore, ult before 2ing. Ult, get a couple autos off, roll into him if you want for another auto attack cancel, and then knock him up. But unless you just have to, do not ult after 2ing. Ult before 2ing. Next up is the Jormungandr. I'm going to be honest. I thought I had a support one here, but it's not a support one. It's just try Gilded Arrow on this character in solo lane. It's actually a lot of fun and makes him feel very viable. I think outside of that, he feels pretty lackluster, but with Gilded Arrow, he feels actually really good. Next up is Khepri. Know when you're using your 2 in team fights. This is a protection debuff and a damage mitigation buff. If your Zeus is getting dove, toss your 2 on him. Give him some mitigation. If you're trying to blow up their solo laner, 2 before dashing. So when you pull them in through your 2 and it reduces their procs. Your 2 is Khepri's most important ability outside of his ult. So make sure you're getting very, very good use out of your 2. Kumbhakarna. Another thing kind of like the Geb, his abilities DR themselves. So if you 3 at the beginning of a fight and then you ult and then you 2, perfect. Perfect, you're good. Your 3 is very, 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 very bad if you're ulting and 2ing before you mez. So if you walk up, you hit a mez, and then you ult, and then you 3, instead of this mez lasting 3 seconds, it's probably lasting about 2 seconds. You're cutting about a second of your CC. Try to lead with your mez, and then 2 or ult, but mezzing first is usually best if you can get it. Obviously, sometimes you can't, but if you can, it's the best. Kuzenbo. His 1 tanks objectives. This Kappa that he can just toss and just starts absorbing autos from the Gold Fury and from Fire Giant and from towers. That is actually so OP that you can toss your Kappa to start tanking objectives and then you can walk up and still zone. Abuse it. It is actually obnoxious when people do not use it. Let your ADC and your Nene just 2v1 the Gold Fury. It is very, very OP. Abuse your Nene Kappa beyond just the slow. Abuse it as an actual tank for stuff. Next up is Sobek. Another one like Bacchus where he doesn't have a ton of stuff in his kit. It's very simple, very straightforward. His 1 stuns before pulling. So for Fenrir who's brutalizing, who's usually knock-up immune, with Sobek, if you pluck him, he is no longer knock-up immune because he is stunned first and interrupts the Fenrir brutalize and then flips him away. Another thing is he gets percent prots in his ult. I don't know if people know that, but there you go. There's another thing. Sobek's just super simple, so I didn't have anything for him, really. Next up is Sylvanas. The full Sylvanas combo, if you can make it work or if you can wait for somebody else's CC, is to pull and then root and then ult and then heal. That is the best combo you can get. Obviously, sometimes you shouldn't use your 2 to do damage, but if you get just a wild pull in the jungle, that's why you see me throw him out a lot in SPL, is if I hit a pull and then I'm able to hit my root ult, that is 3 seconds of CC where they cannot do anything, and I'm reducing their prots. So that's the full Sylvanas combo. If you can get really good hitting raw pulls without the 1, this character will feel way, way, way better. Next up is Terra. Abuse your knock-up immunity when your stones are down. It is a very, very underrated part of her kit because there is a lot of knockups in the game now. If you're playing against a Sobek, while he does stun, she's immune through the entire time for knockups. So if you're playing against, or somebody locks in a Sobek first, and you just don't know what to play against it, Terra's a really, really good pick into it because you cannot get plucked if your stones are down. Same thing with Shin Chen. You can pick her into Shin Chen and he cannot throw you. He can pick you up and like move you, but he cannot like throw you off his ult. Next up, we got Shin Chen. 1, the ADC every fight if you can, or the assassin if they're a bit more auto attack based. This damage reduction is only for auto attacks. It's not just damage reduction of that character in general. It's just auto attacks. And who auto attacks the most? ADC's first. Junglers second. Abuse that. Next up is Yamoja. Your 3 is so OP for manipulating the wave. You can make it so the enemy team is losing minions just by 3ing part of your wave or 3ing part of their wave. If your mid laner or ADC is not in lane and the wave is starting to crash, toss your 3 up, let them knock those minions away, and hold it for your ADC for your mid laners. Very, very underrated part of her kit that a lot of high-level players use, but not a lot of mid, low-level players. Ymir. Always know what you are doing with your wall. This character's wall is the best support. Actually, no, I'm going to go even beyond that. This wall is the best base cooldown ability in the game. It is area denial that you can choose when to bring up and when to put down. It lasts 6 seconds and its cooldown is 10 seconds. You can have it up for 6 seconds and then down for 6 seconds. It is way, 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 way too strong to not be abusing it. So the biggest thing is if you are not using it, If you get a bad wall off, or if your wall's just barely off, just drop it down immediately so you can bring it back up on cooldown, because the cooldown doesn't start until your wall is down. And that right there is one tip for every god except, or every guardian except Yorm, because Yorm isn't really a support, so he doesn't really play support. And I hope it helps you guys improve with your support gameplay, and I hope it helps you guys with the guardians also. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.